I got this new mic over here. Gotta use it. It just arrived 2 days ago. I'm not completely sure how to use it or if I'm getting the best sound of it. So let's just see. I decided to just go for it for now. I also have this that came with it. I'm not exactly sure how to use this, but it was turning out to be a bit of a pain in the ass while I was connecting it. And it might disassemble at any point, actually. I'm not very sure about that. So during this recording. So, but let's just see how it goes. I think it seems fine so far. It's sturdy. Got it for about, $50 max online from Amazon. And seems to be working fine. It was easy to set up. It took about 5 minutes max. About 10 minutes, 15 minutes max. Something like that. So let's just see. All this, got the equipment. I'm going to record for about 30, 40 minutes. So I can dissect FPL. Which will all turn out to be pointless at one point because you'll end up with a shitty game week like Gameweek 5. Yeah, nice segue there. That fucking game week was a shit show. I don't know if we could really get anything out of it. It's annoying because even though you go through that bad game week, you still have nothing to go out from it. There's nothing okay, I should really get this guy, I should really get that guy. There's some of that, but very minimal. You can't really analyze the data so much because most of the players that did something good were players you would never have in your team. They don't usually do good as FPL assets. And so you wouldn't think about them as a long-term purchase or even as a medium short-term purchase. Maybe as a punt, if anything. In my league, last place got the most points this week. It's one of those game weeks where it just seems like everything the clock sort of just, what is it? Fucking broken clock is right 2 times a day sort of game weeks, So that was it. I'm going through the results over here. Just making sure that you can see what I've got open. Okay. So Wolves 1, Liverpool 3. I think that was a good sign for Liverpool, that match, just the way they looked. They were under a lot of pressure when the match began. Wolves got the lead with a 1-0, and then they managed to come back from that. They survived through the shitty way that game started for them. And then they overcame that, which I think shows a lot of heart and shows kind of what you need as a team to be able to, challenge for a title or put up a good fight at least. So they look much better than the Liverpool of last year. They seem to have gotten some good signings to strengthen themselves. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how they end up or how the season goes for them. They seem to be exciting. From an FPL perspective as well, I'll talk about Mo Salah later. But I don't know. I'm hoping and kind of predicting that this season, the Premier League is going to be a 3-horse race between Man City, Arsenal, and Liverpool. Just the way things are looking right now. Very early, just speculation at this point, but it'll be nice to see that as opposed to the what's been happening throughout the past 6 years, which is just City dominating and one team just hoping to keep up with them. It'll be nice to see a 3-horse race for a change rather than just one team inevitably failing in the end as well. So I think it might be, if it's an early season prediction, Man City first, Liverpool second, Arsenal third. But anyways, enough about that. Liverpool 3, Wolves 1, Aston Villa 3, Crystal Palace 1, Fulham 1, Luton 0. Man United got smashed by Brighton. They got fucking smoked during that match. I watched the highlights for it. Brighton's goals were really, really good. There's not much to say about them from an FPL perspective. At this point how good they are, and they're an exciting team to watch and everything. And I think we know who their main assets are. There's a lot of rotation in there, but Mitoma is your guy over there. March is also not bad. Joao Pedro actually got a goal, funnily enough, for this game week. This game week was so shit. It's kind of crazy. It's like the game was just messing with us because we had Joao Pedro, who, a lot of people were probably thinking of selling going into this game week because he wasn't starting. And so probably a lot of people did sell him going into this game week. And then he just comes off the bench and scores out of all the people. And Mitoma doesn't get a single return. Then in the next game, you had Spurs 2-1 versus Sheffield United. Everyone got Son in, and everyone had taken off Richarlison before they started this game week because Richarlison seemed to, he's going through all these psychological problems. He can't, doesn't seem to be motivated. He was open about it, so everyone was feeling sorry for him. And at the same time, they sold him from their teams because they're like, what could this guy possibly do? He comes in and he wins the game for them. And Son, who's the exciting prospect who just came off a hat-trick, playing against the worst team, one of the worst teams in the league, does not get anything. To be fair, on a different day, I think Spurs might have those two, like Son, and there was also Maddison, who everyone was trying to get in. They could have gotten a return because Maddison seemed to be fouled. He should have probably gotten a penalty for that, and if he did, and Son shoots that penalty and scores, then you have an assist for Maddison, 1 goal for Son, which would have been really, really good actually, and then we wouldn't be having this conversation. This game week might have turned out a bit better. But anyways, back to that Man United-Brighton match. Man United looked really, really bad. But watching the highlights, I'll just say one thing. Beginning of the game, Rashford got a lot of chances. Who knows? And he could have scored a goal in this, and then all this talk about people wanting to sell Rashford, sell Bruno, might not have happened. So it was just the first 20 minutes, but it's I'm just trying to separate Rashford as an FPL asset from the performances of his team, Man United. Man United are obviously not in good form right now, and they're playing against Bayern Munich today, the Champions League. So they're probably gonna get smashed from there. Just I'm a Barcelona fan, so I know what it's like to play against Bayern Munich, unfortunately, and I know how good they are. They're probably gonna smash Man United in my prediction. They'll probably beat them easily. I think they're way better than them. But anyways, what that does is it makes Man United in even, whatever crisis they're in right now with all that stuff that they're facing, this is probably going to deepen their crisis. So them as a team, not good. Rashford as an FPL asset, I still think I wouldn't sell him just yet, just because of how he's looked. At least, even if they keep losing, they've got Burnley next away. Newly promoted team does not look that good, but they could easily win that game, or if anything, they could score, even if they lose. Right? I wouldn't be surprised if they lost against Burnley, given the form that they're in. But I think they're likely to score at least, and if they do, then I think Rashford is the top guy you'd want to go for when they do score. So that's one thing about him. Man City beat West Ham 3-1. So they looked like they might have been in a bit of trouble, but then erased all of that away, and then they came back to win 3-1. Alvarez got 2 assists over there, and Haaland got 1 goal. Doku scored as well. There was that. Newcastle 1-0 versus Brentford. Whoever had Buemo and Wissa, they both didn't do anything. Wissa for the 3rd week in a row blanked. Wissa actually had 2 very good chances during this game. He could have scored on another day, but it wasn't to be. A hard match for them, so maybe I wouldn't take too much off this match for Brentford, for the Brentford assets, the 2. Or even, Henry walked off injured in that match, so unlucky if you have him. Newcastle scored through Wilson penalty. Game was super boring. I had to put my wife through that. I was just watching a bit of it just for FPL purposes, and eventually it got really, really boring that I was like, man, you know what, screw this. I'm not enjoying this game. Just a lot of time wasting and everything. And at the same time, I'm torturing my wife, so just flipped it off. And Newcastle 1-0. Bournemouth 0, Chelsea 0. Chelsea looked, just watching the highlights, they looked like they had a lot of chances that they could have scored. The biggest bummer in this was Chilwell getting benched and then coming on in the final 10 minutes and then just not doing shit, just getting a yellow card and then basically preventing all the bench points from coming in. More about Chelsea later when I go and dive into my team and each player and see how well they did. Arsenal 1-0 against Everton. Saka getting 1 assist. I think that's one good one for the template teams over there. I'm sure a lot of people have Saka in their team. Saka got an assist, and Trossard was the one who scored it. So, yeah, there we go. Trossard was the one who scored it. So, not much there from an FPL perspective as well. If you had Saliba, then I think he might be an injury concern at this point. It doesn't show that over here, but Gabriel started, which is a good thing for all those Gabriel owners. You know, Arsenal's fixtures are going to get a bit hard now, so maybe their defenders aren't the go-to option, but at least they got to start during this match. Nottingham Forest, for all the Turner owners, well, he didn't do anything. Awoniyi, is that how you pronounce his name? He got an assist, and so that wasn't so bad. If you own him, well, good job on you. He seems to still be in good form, so he's keeping it up. So, yeah, well done on that. Let's look at my team. Okay, so I started Turner this week. I've got Pickford and Turner as goalies. The way I started with it this season was just, I wanted, these two guys kind of complement each other in terms of fixtures. Whenever Pickford has a hard fixture, which he did this week against Arsenal, it would turn out that Turner would have a good fixture. So I could easily, they're easily rotatable, which is the reason why I got them. Not good. Not so much good that's doing me, because it's just they always end up with just 2 or 3 points max. A lot of people are talking about just selling these two, and from a logical perspective, I think it's okay to sell one of them and maybe get a better goalkeeper, maybe like Raya, sorry, not Raya. What's his name from Brentford, Flecken, or maybe get someone like Ederson. But I just don't see the upside. I don't see that the upside is that much to waste your transfer on something like this. Excuse me. When there are much more exciting transfers that you could opt for at this point. So, yeah, I'm keeping that on hold. Right now, I'm just keeping fucking Turner and fucking Pickford as just two goalies that will max get me 2-3 points. If they get anything more than that, it's a bonus for me, and I'm content with that. I've accepted that. Sometimes you just have to do that with FPL. Otherwise, you're just gonna drive yourself crazy trying to figure out this nonsense. Okay, Gabriel got 5 points for that clean sheet against what are their names? Everton. I think he got a yellow card. Yeah, he got a yellow card. That's why it's 5, not 6. Chilwell, as I mentioned earlier. Okay, he's kind of interesting for me right now, because if there was a move I was gonna make in the next week, it might be just him going to someone like Trippier or a Newcastle defender or someone else. But here's the thing, right? I'm not so sure about that right now, because I want to see, apparently what Pochettino was looking at experimenting with his team, and he said something in the press conference about rotating him with Mudryk. We're not 100% set on that yet, so I'm not hasty to make that decision until I have more data. I think if you've got a good sub, in my case, I've got Stupiran, who I didn't start this week. I've got Kabori, who's got a double game week coming up soon. Then might be okay to just stay or keep Chilwell. Who knows? He's still got easy fixtures coming up. He's got Aston Villa at home. It's not necessarily the easiest, but he's got 2 more after that, I think. Let's have a look at them here. Yeah, so Aston Villa at home, and then Fulham away, and then Burnley away. If he doesn't start again, then I think it might be time to sell him. But I think maybe for now, he could easily just start the next match. And when he does, he's a good attacking asset. And the options in defense aren't that many. Aren't many that you wouldn't really scramble for them at this point. I think there's Trent. He's okay. He didn't start last week though, so we'll just have to see how he fares from now on. He's not someone that I would reshuffle my team for, just waste a transfer on just at this moment. Udogie got 2 points because Nottingham Forest scored against the run of play in their match. If you have a Tottenham defender, I would I'm happy with Udogie. He's playing for one of the most attacking teams, one of the most exciting teams in the league right now with Tottenham's new manager. They seem to be playing good football, and everyone was expecting much more from that game against Sheffield because ideally they should be smashing them given their form, but these types of wins are important because I think they boost morale. So you never know; it might go from here to something more significant from FPL terms. Anyways, Udogie, left back at Tottenham, attacking left back as well. What's his price? It's just 4.7 million. Very, very good asset to have in your team at the moment. Son, very frustrating. I don't want to sell Son just yet. I think who knows. The problem with Son is that while he is a proven FPL asset, at the same time, when you look at last season, he seemed to be like not himself. And I'm worried. He did get a hat trick at one point last season, and everyone went crazy about trying to get him into their team, and then it just turned out to be a trap. And I'm worried that this might be the same case. But at the same time, as a counter argument to that, they're much better. Tottenham are much better now, and they look like a different team from last year. So it could easily be both things, but it could easily be the other thing. It's just like that he's a trap. But I'm waiting and seeing so far. They play against Arsenal next, in the North London derby, and let's see. They play. They're away against Arsenal. Tough fixture on paper, but here's the thing, right? Like, I wouldn't avoid him or I wouldn't sell him for that because like these big players, right? Like Son, he's probably the biggest name on Tottenham right now in that Tottenham squad, and he's playing in a big game. Like these big names, these big players, they're meant to shine during the big games, and Son is a big game player, so I could easily see him scoring against Arsenal. I wouldn't be surprised at all. They also play sort of more of a high line. They're likely to attack, and he's really good at just running in behind the line. I could see him, I could see Tottenham possibly scoring on the counter attack, and Son being the one who does score it. Plus, he's on penalties. He was captainable material last game week. He isn't this game week, so I don't think you should go for anyone other than Haaland this game week. But I'm keeping Son in my team. No one I did kind of get that regret while the game week was playing out because I sold Odegaard for him, and I like Odegaard a lot because he was my differential. And just the way last season went and this season seems to be going, he just seems to be like that reliable guy who might get you a return every 2 game weeks or 3, or he might haul, and then as a differential for me, he seemed like a good one, and I sold him for a Son because I figured, okay, one differential for hopefully what might have turned out to be another differential, but then all my mini league rivals got him as well. And now the regret is that I have this guy that my rivals also have, and there's like a 50-50 chance of him, at least the way he looks, for him to deliver on the money that I spent for him and the transfer that I spent for him. So that being said, though, I'm still keeping him. I'm still giving him another chance. Maybe I'll look at selling him if he doesn't perform in the next few game weeks. But for now, I'm keeping him. I want to see how he performs. If everyone is probably going to be watching that match against Arsenal. It's probably going to be the biggest match of next week. So I'd keep an eye on Son and just see how his form is. If he seems to have that, confidence, based on your eye test, I'd keep him. And if he seems to not be himself, losing his balls, like missing chances he wouldn't normally miss, looking at him during the last few seasons when he was an essential FPL pick, or close to essential at least, then I would look at selling him. So I wouldn't make my judgment just yet. Mitoma, only 2 points. Unlucky over there if you have him. Yeah, he could have easily been one of the scorers or one of the assisters. It's unlucky. I would just keep him in my team for now. Who is next fixtures? He's got Bournemouth at home, which is a brilliant fixture. I can see him scoring there, so I would keep him for now. We got Mbuemo. He scored in the last second of Gameweek 4 of his match over there, and with this one against Newcastle, very tough fixture. So, I mean, it's kind of expected, or you shouldn't be too surprised that he didn't score there with Newcastle at home. Tough atmosphere and everything. So, you could easily see Brentford losing that match 1-0. I'd keep him. They've also got, Everton next. Everton at home next. So, these next two fixtures, I'd look at those Brentford players closely. I'd see if they don't score at that point, then I'd start analyzing, maybe taking off one of them, potentially Wissa, because Mbuemo looks like a better FPL asset, whereas Wissa, you could replace him with someone like Alvarez, for example. It'd be better. Okay, Saka got an assist against Everton. That was good. I'd keep him. He's kind of a, let's see how many people is he owned by. TSB is selected by 64.8%. At this point, it's like if you own him and he does something good, you kind of don't gain at all. If you don't and then he does something good, you're probably screwed. So I would just keep him just as a defensive measure more than anything else. He's also good as an FPL asset. It's not like he's not doing well anyway. He's got 10 points in his first week. 10, 3, 8, 4, 6. That's not bad at all. It's like an on average a return every game week. I'd keep him for sure. I would not look at selling Saka. But even with the next game coming up against Tottenham. Like I said, big games are where the big players shine. And Saka is no exception to that. Rashford. Okay, I talked a bit about him earlier. I think the main thing you should keep in mind is just who he has next. He's got Burnley away and then Crystal Palace at home next. They're really, really good fixtures. And for Man United, whenever they score, I'd expect Rashford to be the top runner in terms of the guy who's going to be getting the points. So that's why I'm giving Rashford another chance here. Haaland, okay, for everyone who captained Son this game week, who took a risk and captained Son, I think you were really let off. You were really lucky there because Haaland could have gotten a hat trick during that match against West Ham. It was unbelievable how he didn't score those two chances. Very uncharacteristic of him. So, but anyways, he's still got 6 points, which is not bad at all. And I'll probably be captaining him next week as well. Wissa, like I said, against Newcastle did nothing. Missed 2 easy chances as well. But I'll keep him because I'm looking at keeping him because they've got Everton next. Estupinian got 0 points. He didn't play. He didn't play at all. So I thought I was being smart by taking him off and putting Gabriel in. That's actually how I started the game week. So I figured maybe Estupinian, because he had the harder fixture, Man United will probably score against them. I was like, okay, I'm gonna make this genius move of putting him up on the bench, but nothing happened from that. I mean, he just ended up getting benched anyway, and Gabriel started, and there was nothing really turned out of that. So that wraps up my team. Now I want to look at certain players who I think are good prospects, are really, really good prospects. Okay. Who are some big prospects? Okay, some names. I'll start off with one over here. Go for defenders. We've got Botman. Do you want to look at Newcastle's fixtures? So have a look at this right here, right? That's pretty good greenery over here. Sheffield United away, Burnley at home, West Ham away, which is a bit hard, Crystal Palace at home. Anyways, the point I'm talking about is that there's a good turn of fixtures. It goes all the way down here, all the way to game week 19. So Newcastle defenders are a good target right now. Botman, 4.5 million. Great pick. You've also got, if you've got the money for it, obviously. Where the hell is he? God damn. They haven't done anything this week. Oh, they're not even near the top. Yeah, Trippier, 6.5 million. So a bit more expensive on the expensive side, but he's the one that can get you attacking returns. He's always up there on the right flank for Newcastle. Good option. Right. For me, for example, I've got Chilwell 5.7. Yeah, switching that to Trippier is a good option for me. I'll still have to wait and analyze and just see where I want to go. But yeah, Trippier is good, man. Trippier is a good option. For me, it just depends on whether I want to sell Chilwell or not. I'll have to just look at that. Or I want to try and plan for the next game weeks, maybe see if I want to get Salah in. And that will drive my decision. But Chilwell to Trippier is a good one for me. I've got fucking 3 million in the bank. I could do anything I want. But yeah, try to be as sensible as I can with these transfers. The Sun one, I'm kind of like, the Sun transfer just made me think maybe I'm being a bit too hasty with these players. So maybe just don't chase the points as much as possible. Maybe try to be a bit more patient. So that's kind of what's holding me back a bit. But on paper, this is a good decision. Chilwell, who seems to not be starting all the time, for someone like Trippier, who might be starting. Who, well, in general, we have no indication as of now on Newcastle ever rotating him. So even though they did have they do have the Champions League coming, like, you know, this season. They have a lot more games than last season. He wasn't rotated at all last season, but as far as we know, anyway, for an FPL, Trippier is not a rotation. He's not at a rotation risk. With FPL, sometimes, you know, you have to know with football, any shit can happen all the time, right? Anything can happen in football, but you have to make it easy on yourself and just look at the data that you have. With the data that we have, Trippier is not a rotation risk, right? And he is a good option, I think, at this point. So that's one. Next is Mo Salah. So let me just pull him up. There's some fucking drilling from the neighbors. Thing is, I made my first video last week saying that you should probably sell Salah if you have him. I'm kind of still like hesitant about Salah because it's hard to justify it, right? Look, it's hard to justify being against Salah because of how consistent he is. Every game there's a return. Every game, look at that from the beginning. 1 assist against Chelsea, 1 goal against Bournemouth, 1 assist against Newcastle, 1 goal against Aston Villa, and then you've got 2 assists against Wolves, right? And next he's got West Ham at home, which he could easily score in. The reason I was against him and is just because of how expensive he is, and just there's so many options in midfield that it's hard to justify having someone like him who has consistent returns when you've got so many options that are much cheaper. Okay. That being said, he's a proven FPL asset. We know his history, right? Like, since 2017, 2018, he's just been that guy that you keep in your team. He was kind of like, well, at that point, he was kind of like how Haaland is now. You just don't not have him in your team. You always have to have him there. Now, it's kind of cool just from an FPL perspective because some people have him, some people don't. And so there's different variations of teams depending on whether or not you have him. I think he's essential after Gameweek 9. I think Gameweek 9 is when that turn of fixtures happens, right? Yeah. So they got away Spurs, away Brighton, and they've got West Ham at home. A bit tricky in terms of fixtures, even though he could still score at them. But I think he's got to become essential at game week 9 point. I think a lot of people are going to be wildcarding there, so it'll be even easier to get him into your team. Yeah. From there, they've got these amazing fixtures coming up. You know, Everton, Nottingham Forest, Luton, Brentford. They've got one Man City one here, but like, yeah, really, really good fixtures in there. And I think Tottenham's fixtures start to become harder at that point. So it's one of those points where everyone is looking at wildcarding. I would get Salah in at game week 9 when you wildcard, or even if you don't. I think he's essential at that point. For now, I'm content to be without him because of, like, who would I sell? Who could I justify selling over here? Everyone has a reason for me to keep him. You know, Saka, because he's a template player. And I think it's like this is the case for a lot of different players. It's like, who do you sell to get to Salah? And who would you be okay with selling? Someone, you know, and do you have the funds to make up for it without like completely destroying your team? So Mbuemo has a really good fixture. Mitoma has a really good fixture. Rashford, same. Son, big game player. You know, against Arsenal, he could easily score there. And Saka, you know, template player. So I wouldn't sell any one of these guys for Salah right now. Even though I've got the money, like selling Son and getting Salah right now seems like a sideways move based on the evidence that we have. But let's see. Let's see how it unfolds. As for right now, I'm not hasty on getting him in. I wouldn't fault you if you do get him because he's a really, really good pick. He seems to be consistent. You know, that's sometimes when you have a bad game week like this where just no one seems to be doing anything, then you start to look at the ones who did perform. This game week, it was just literally like the Newcastle defenders, Arsenal defenders, and Salah and Alvarez. Those are the only people who performed from an FPL perspective who you might get into your team. So when everyone else doesn't, then you start like I think that's kind of making people look at it in a different way. Like, oh, I should have had Salah all this time. But I think if anyone else scored, any one of these guys, which is like, it's a freak game week, right? It's like one of those game weeks where probably one of the worst I can remember, where just everything goes wrong at the same time. But at the same time, it's kind of good because the fact that it was wrong for all these types of teams, all these types of players, like it went bad for them, means maybe you're not that harmed in the ranking. You know, like in my mini league, for example, all the guys who were in close contention to win it with me, all lost their head-to-head because the players who they were playing against happened to have like the wrong, between quote marks, type of players, and those ones did good. So when you do bad, it's better that everyone else does bad as well, rather than you doing bad and everyone else doing good. I think that's the silver lining with this game week. Yeah, Salah, I'll wait on him for a bit, but very good asset. If you want to get him in, I will never fault you for that. He's brilliant FPL asset. Third one is, let me go to forwards here. Got a fucking sore throat, man. It's hurting me to talk, but I'm gonna push through this though because I'm a trooper. Okay, Julian Alvarez, 6.8 million. Let's look at his minutes, right? Because I think that's the main concern when you look at Pep Guardiola teams, how he rotates and everything. Okay, his minutes: 90, 89, 90, 90, and 90. There hasn't been a single game where he hasn't started this season in the Premier League, and there hasn't been a single game where he's even been subbed off early. So in terms of minutes, I think at least with the data that we have, he's covered, right? And returns seem to be really good. There's only one game he didn't return in, and that was against Sheffield away, where they made a comeback at the last second, and they won that game. Every other game he's returned. He seems to be a really good asset. If you remember last season when De Bruyne was injured for Man City, Alvarez started, he started a lot more games when De Bruyne was injured. So, he's on my list for sure. But look at their next fixture is against Nottingham Forest at home. He's another option for me, right? I've got Wissa, who's a kind of a yellow flag at this point. He's a yellow flag, and someone like Pickford is also a yellow flag for me. So, like, there's a question mark. What I mean by yellow flag is that there's a question mark on them, but I'm just not quite ready to sell them, or I'm not very hasty to sell them just yet. But Wissa is a yellow flag for me because 3 matches in a row, which were supposed to be, 2 of them at least were supposed to be easy. He didn't return in those, and it was frustratingly, missed 2 chances against Newcastle. So I was looking at selling Wissa. But if I'm getting Alvarez, because I could easily do that, 6.1 to 6.7. Alvarez is getting more and more expensive because everyone seems to be getting him in. He seems to be close to an essential at this point. If there's any time, to get Alvarez, it might be now, just before his Nottingham Forest fixture. One thing that's keeping me from doing that is just Wissa having Everton next. Everton at home. Really, really good fixture. Feel like, I did get Wissa 3 weeks ago. If there's any reason why I got him, I should be holding on to him at least for Everton at home and just seeing how he does. Maybe he'll get the returns that I got him for during that time. He seemed to be a really good prospect starting off the season, and now he's sort of faded off a little bit. But yeah, that's my hesitation, is the fact that Wissa has a really good fixture. Let me see. I could potentially sell Mubama here. So let's see if I sell him. I put in Alvarez. Still got enough money for that. I've got 0.6 at the bank. But then, who would I not start from the midfielders, right? Because that's a definite upgrade there. I could keep Wissa, I guess. I could bench him, but that just seems like it doesn't seem like the best move, because I'd have to bench one of these players, and it wouldn't make sense having an expensive asset on the bench. Like for example, if I was to bench Wissa, it wouldn't make sense to have a 6.1 million asset who could score on this game week on your bench. I could bench someone like Saka, but then I suffer from the problem, I'm facing that potential problem of him scoring in the game week, and then everyone who owns Saka to get the points off him, except for me. Rashford is another option I could bench just based on his form, but then again, at the same time, he's owned by 33.4% of managers, and he has Burnley away next. So I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that at this point. Maybe like Wissa to Alvarez is not a bad move at all. I don't want to fault you for doing it, but for me, I'm kind of leaning towards not selling him. Maybe rolling the transfer this week. It might be my potential move. Just based on all of that. Okay, let's have a look at fixtures this week. What we've got coming up, what we could potentially target. Crystal Palace, Fulham. We've got Edouard, who seems to be in good form. There's someone you could go for there, Crystal Palace. I guess Fulham, that's not a bad fixture at all. Let's have a look at him. Let's see how he's been, because I know he's been very, very consistent. Okay. Yeah, he's one of the top 3 in terms of points for attackers, Edouard. So he's picked by only 4.4% of managers. That's not bad at all. But then again, you don't know. He's not a proven FPL asset. So it could just be one of those things where you get him and then he suddenly stops scoring. You wouldn't be surprised at all. Crystal Palace do have, at least in the next 4, they've got 2 good fixtures. So Newcastle away, Man United away, not necessarily good, but Man United away, they could easily just win them there based on how Man United are right now. Fulham at home, Nottingham Forest at home, really, really good fixtures. So yeah, he's punt if you want to, if you're into that sort of thing. Edouard. Then you've got Luton, Wolves. Luton for me just seem to be that kind of club that maybe you target everyone who plays against them. If you want a short-term pick or someone who might get you points on that, they seem to be out of their depth in the Premier League, and they're just not that good. Sometimes you get these teams that get promoted to the Premier League and they're not ready for it, so they just get trampled over in every match that they play in. And Luton give off those vibes for me. They play against Wolves. So not sure who I would target from Wolves. I don't know. I don't even know if I would target one of their players, to be honest. Though I'm gonna say Pedro Neto looked really, really good against Liverpool. Maybe he could get points, but yeah, I'd stay away from there. I'd stay away from Wolves. Man City versus Nottingham Forest. Yeah, really, really good fixture for Man City. Alvarez, Alvarez, brilliant, brilliant option. Haaland, captain for sure. Don't even hesitate with that. Don't even think about anything else. Yeah. Who else is there? Rodri. He seems okay. But he's the reason I'm hesitant with Rodri is even though he gets you those FPL points, it just seems like I can't give him my full backing because of his position. Right, he's a defensive midfielder. It's sort of like backing, like it's a once in a lifetime thing. He's 5.5 million. He gets you the goals every now and then. Maybe he fits into your team to try and enable you to get Salah. That might not be a bad option, if you want to shuffle your midfield that way. But yeah, uh, I'm not hell bent on getting Rodri into my team. Ederson is a good option in defense. In a goalkeeper, just because you won't have to worry about rotation when you've got Ederson as your goalie. But at the same time, though, you pay so much for him. So like, how much does Ederson cost? Let's have a look. Let's have a look. 5.6 million. Yeah, he's 19 on points, and he's well. Apparently, he's one of the best City or some of the best defenders in the league. Right? They supposedly have the best defense in the league, but they always struggle to keep clean sheets. So they're always like, you always concede a goal somehow, and this was a trend at the end of last season, and it seems to be continuing this season as well. That they always somehow concede a goal. At 19 points, 5.6 million, I wouldn't go crazy to get Edison into my team. One of the other defenders, maybe, but still, defense, I think in general, has been or clean sheets in general have been kind of a tricky point in FPL in the past few seasons. They're a rarity, man. No teams are getting clean sheets these days, or you can't guarantee it from even top teams. So that's why I think with defense, you just try to make it as close to set and forget as possible. So Estupinian and Chilwell now, because he's a rotation option, he's a risk. But Udogi is good. Gabriel's the Arsenal defender is all right. Newcastle defenders, get those in there if you can. But yeah, Man City defenders, I'm not so crazy about. I mean, they've got that back line. That's kind of like, even their left backs and their right backs are made up of people or players that are normally center backs. So not very attacking in any way. So you'd be getting those mostly for the clean sheets or for the odd corner where they might score a header out of. And you'd be paying a lot for them because they're Man City players and they're rotation options. They're rotation risks as well. So that's why I stay away from Man City players or Man City defenders. Okay, let's go back to those fixtures. Brentford versus Everton. That's a big test for those Brentford guys that we've got on our team. So Mbuemo, Wissa. It's your time to shine. I really, really hope you fucking deliver during this match. It's gonna be a pain in the ass if you don't. Let's see how that goes. Man United versus Burnley. Potential crisis deepening for Man United. Let's see how that goes. I don't like Man United in general. I'm a bit bitter because I'm a Barca fan and they beat Barcelona in the last Europa League. So maybe I'm not over that and I'm just a bit petty and bitter. But anyways, it's kind of it's kind of good for me on a personal point of view to see Man United suffering this much. I don't know what the hell their problem is, right? It's like whoever they get in, it looks like they might be on the up, and then all of a sudden they start suffering all over again. And this seems to be a trend every single season. You get a new manager bounce. It seems like, finally Ten Hag has found a solution to them. And then they just resort to the mean again, and they just start it was the same with all. They start becoming bad. Oli Solskjaer as well. As soon as he came in, it seemed like he found the solution. He seemed to have they jump started, and then all of a sudden they regressed. They became really, really bad, and they fell back into that deep crisis again. So with all this money that they've spent, they still, at least at this point, don't seem to be like they're on an upwards trajectory. It looked like it might be their season. I honestly went into the season thinking, okay, this is where Man United are going to step up based on how last season went, and they're going to become big. But let's see. I mean, it's still the beginning of the season. You never know what football can give you. But not looking good at the moment for Man United. Burnley might somehow shock them, and Burnley's like, they are a newly promoted team, but I could see Burnley shocking them just because they have that, they're managed by Vincent Kompany. They play the high energetic attacking football, a bit naive at some points, but maybe that energy could be, could basically be a detriment to Man United, who seem to be lacking it at this point. Just that sort of team, when you're in crisis and you have some, team playing at home and going all out against you, with no fear, might just break you. And Man United did get broken in their last match. I think they looked okay in the first 20 minutes against Brighton, and then all of a sudden they fell off a cliff in terms of their form. They just gave up. So, yeah, let's see how that match goes. Arsenal versus Spurs, I think that's the pick. On Sunday, it seems to be like a nice Sunday. It seems to be like the big games are on Sunday this week rather than on Saturday. Arsenal Spurs should be very exciting. Let's see. A lot of FPL assets over there, and they will be playing in that match. In terms of what you should target, so far, Brentford versus Everton is one for a punt. Crystal Palace versus Fulham, you get Edouard. Edouard is a good pick for there. Wolves versus Luton, though I think whoever you get for that Wolves fixture, you'd want to sell him ASAP afterwards. And I don't think I think Pedro Neto is a midfielder, if I'm not mistaken. I believe he is. Let me just double check on that. Yeah, Neto is a midfielder, 5.5 million. And given the abundance of midfield options, I'd personally not go away from him. So I just want to cross that out. Wolves, maybe not the best option this week. Brentford versus Everton is a good option. Maybe if you want to go for Wissa, if you want to go for Buemo, if you want one of those punts for that, it's a good fixture this week, I think. A good target for those Brentford players. Okay. Brighton versus Bournemouth is another good one. I wouldn't get Joao Pedro just because of the rotation risk. Estepinian should definitely start if he's in your team. I know he didn't start last game week, but I think one thing to keep in mind is that the international break came and Estepinian is from Ecuador. So that's probably the reason why he didn't start, is probably he came back from South America. They had 2 qualifiers over there, and just the time for recovery. I wouldn't read too much into him being rested. Though I'd possibly wait, until closer to the deadline to just see if there's any more info on that. But I think hopefully it's just a rest because of that international break. He should be starting on Sunday. Chelsea versus Aston Villa. It's a tricky fixture for them, and Chelsea haven't given anything encouraging so far this season. I wouldn't get their assets in, but if you happen to have players in your team from Chelsea, like Chilwell or Jackson, who seems to be like kind of someone everyone is disappointed in right now, I wouldn't fault you for just keeping them for this fixture, because look, their underlying numbers are okay. They seem to be doing okay, but just not translating that to actual goals or results that you could be happy with. It's not the worst thing in the world if you keep your Chelsea assets this week. Okay, Liverpool versus West Ham. Very, very good fixture. It's at the same time as Arsenal versus Spurs. That's a bummer. It would have been nice if those 2 fixtures are separated. But yeah, Liverpool versus West Ham. Good fixture there. Salah. Not the easiest fixture for him, But I wouldn't be surprised to see Liverpool winning, for example, 2-0 and Salah maybe scoring 2 of those goals. And everyone will possibly go crazy in the FPL community saying, how come we don't have Salah in their team? Everyone will start shuffling to get him. I think I might be one of those people, actually. But yeah, I don't think there are any other Liverpool assets that are must-haves or good targets at this point beyond Salah because of the lots of rotation. There's a lot of options in attack slash wing, center forward slash wing for Liverpool. Like you've got Gakpo, you've got Jota, you've got Darwin Núñez. All those guys, right? They're Luis Diaz as well. All those guys are fighting for the same positions in the front. Salah is the one who's guaranteed to be playing, at least because I know when he doesn't play, it's a big deal. Yeah, I wouldn't go for anyone else. But if you want to go for Salah, I wouldn't fault you on that. Very, very good pick. Yeah, Alex Arnold, I'd wait on it for now. Sheffield versus Newcastle. Yeah, for Newcastle, like I said, their defense is a good shout at this point. Wilson and Isak, we don't know, right? Like we don't. I think Isak started the Champions League match, if I'm not mistaken, against AC Milan, the 0-0. And Wilson started the last match against who was it? Against who did they play last week? Shit, I'm brain fried right here. Against Brentford. So yeah, I wouldn't target one of their attackers, especially given that you have Alvarez and you've got Haaland, who are the best 2 picks at this point. So Alvarez is just around the same price as Wilson or Isak. If you've got the money for it, then definitely just go for someone like Alvarez instead, because he's got the minutes and he plays for a better team. So I wouldn't target this fixture at this point. Their defense, though, I would target that if I've got the option. Right. That's it. I think that covers it for next week. Captaincy options. I think, honestly, don't overthink it. Don't try to be a smartass this fucking week. Just captain Haaland, and from now, just put the captaincy on Haaland and don't worry about anything else in your life. At home versus Nottingham Forest, like if you don't captain him for that, I don't know why you have him in your team. So yeah, Haaland. I would say, just because of the Champions League matches, this is recorded on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Dubai time. Because of the Champions League matches, I would just wait in case there are any injuries before making your transfers. Yeah, you never know. You might just get someone in and he just ends up getting injured, and then you've wasted a transfer for no reason. So I would just wait until this game week starts on Saturday. I would just wait until Friday night, maybe after the press conferences, to see the team news with someone like Chilwell or whoever you're hesitant about in your team, whether they start or not, and make my transfers then. I'm probably going to be doing that. I'm going to be analyzing different options, whether it's selling Chilwell for Trippier or potentially selling Wissa for Alvarez for this week, and we'll see how this goes. Best of luck this game week. I think that wraps it up. Best of luck this game week, and hope you benefited somehow from this video. If you've got any feedback on my goddamn mic or anything about this video, I'm looking forward to hearing it. Open to feedback. Thank you very much. What's up, motherfucker?